So here's what happens. By the time you even realize what's going on, most of the time, by the time you get there, it's pretty bad. I mean, nobody just nicely walks away from a narcissist. I mean, usually you're like you're running away like with your hair on fire. I mean, it's like you're escaping narcissistic relationships most of the time, right? I mean, it's not like, oh, hey, it's not really working out. Like, let's just like be friends and, we'll just stay on great terms. I mean, you think that maybe you're going to be able to do that sometimes, but let me just tell you, if that's what you think, I'm just going to tell you right now, if you actually are dealing with a narcissist, it's probably not going to go that way because they just can't. I've seen it so many times. As much as even they may want to try to do it that way, it doesn't usually go that way. The first thing that you might start seeing is they just start begging and pleading, and because the thing is, they don't want to see their source of narcissistic supply go running out the door. I mean, they want to hold on to as many sources of supply as they possibly can. And that's what you are. You are a form of narcissistic supply. And so sometimes they even have another form of supply like already lined up. But if they don't, then they really don't want to see you walking out the door. But what they're trying to do a lot of times is they have got the new one and they want the old one, but they don't want to see you walk out the doors. A lot of times what they want to do is they convert you into a different form of supply. So if you're not going to be the form of supply that's giving them that adulation that they wanted, or you're doing stuff for them, or you're making them look good, or whatever form they had before, then they're going to convert you into a different form of supply that they're going to get from you, which is that they get supply out of jerking you around, intimidating you, controlling you, scaring you, because they get supply that way as well. So they get supply out of you. It's just going to be converting you into a different form of supply. So number one is that sudden begging and pleading. They promise to change. You'll be lost without me. You'll never find somebody else like me. They try to guilt you, like, you're so horrible for abandoning me or abandoning the family. They try to lay this guilt trip on you, so they'll do whatever they can to try to get you to not leave. So that's number one. Number two is once they realize you're not falling for that, then it gets messy super fast, because that's when they turn right away. Because with a narcissist, you're either for them or against them. So if you're not going to be for them, then boom, you're going to become public enemy number one. And that's when they're going to go into full-on war. They're going to start lining up their flying monkeys. Now they want to get you before you get them. They're going to try to get the best lawyer. They're going to turn everyone they know against you. They're going to want you to think they're going to take you down. That's it. You're going to pay. You'll never find somebody else like me. You're just the most horrible scum of the earth. You're the worst thing in the world. Now it's full on. Okay. So that's just the most horrible thing. And then number three is if you're going through a divorce or something like that, now they're going to use the court system as a sword. So now it's file every single motion in the book. Now it's going to be withhold discovery. They're going to try to make you spend as much money as possible. They're going to say, oh, your lawyer is horrible. File every single possible motion that they possibly can dream up. Lie about you in pleadings. Manipulate pleadings if they need to. Manipulate evidence if they need to. I mean, depending on the type of narcissist you're dealing with, covert narcissists are less likely to do out and out things like ignore court orders as much as grandiose narcissists are, or malignant narcissists are, they're going to be more likely to actually just call somebody a child molester, even if they're not, or, literally just ruin people's lives. But covert narcissists will definitely lie about people or do things that are more passive aggressive, things like that. But all narcissists will definitely do things to use the court system to their advantage or try to use children to their advantage. They will definitely all do whatever they need to get that upper hand. And if you want to know more about that, you can definitely watch my video with Judge Lynn Toller all about how to beat narcissists in court. And number 4 is, I alluded to this before, they may already have a new source of supply already lined up. Even better for them if they can get a new source lined up, new girlfriend, new boyfriend, new somebody who they think is going to make you jealous, make you look bad, somebody younger, better looking, more money, all that sort of thing that they think is going to be somebody that you think is going to be in some way make you jealous or something like that. But then they do want to keep you around as well if they can. Number 5 is they'll also try to say that you don't need a lawyer, try to sabotage you getting a lawyer. Again, they want to try to get the upper hand on you. So they'll come around and they'll say, your lawyer is just out for money. Your lawyer is bad. Your lawyer's not going to have time for you. Why do we even need lawyers? We can just resolve this ourselves. Believe me, I've seen all of these things. It does get harder before it gets easier. I do get this. But let me tell you, you can definitely do this. And that's why I'm here. That's why I do these videos. That's why I created my Slay program. And I want you to say right now, I got this, because you do got this. You definitely can do this. You definitely can slay. And I want you to put slay in the comments right now, because I've helped millions of people do it. So don't let them do that head trip on you and let you think, oh, I can never win, all that crazy stuff, because you definitely can. Don't believe their craziness. Okay. So just put slay in the comments right now, because you definitely can. And then remember number 6 as well, because as soon as you get some sort of leverage, as soon as you start to get some sort of upper hand on them, they're going to start coming back and maybe try to hoover you. This is when they're going to start to come back and go, oh, let's try to work this out. This is when they're going to start to try to do something to make it go crazy on you, or do some other kind of manipulation, because they don't want to see you get any kind of upper hand on you. And then number 7 is actually hoovering you, where they actually try to say, oh, let's try to work this out. Let's try to get back together. We were always so good together, that sort of thing, because their next form of supply dumped them already or something like that. Yeah, they can't be alone. I've seen that happen a million times too, by the way. I mean, here's the thing. Even if they say they've changed, they will not change. Oh, that's another thing that I've seen before, by the way, is that people think, oh, I got them all changed and everything, and now they're going to be so much better for the next person. The next person's going to get the better version of them. They're not going to be better. They're not going to be better. They don't change. Don't worry. They are who they are. Narcissists are who they are. So you can find somebody who's better than the narcissist. Don't worry. You just need to worry about yourself and getting out of this relationship in a way that's fair. And you've got to create leverage, and you got to have a strategy. And the way you're going to do that isn't going to be saying, well, let me just try to be fair, and I don't want to fight, and I don't want to be too aggressive and all that. That ain't going to cut it, because if as soon as those words are out of your mouth, you're basically saying, hey, narcissist, I'm over here, go ahead and jerk me around. You can't decide when you're all the way down the path and you've already spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and years have gone by, and you didn't really know what the heck you were doing, and your lawyer doesn't know what they're doing, because narcissists get supply out of jerking everybody around, including the system, including the judge, including the lawyers, and everybody, because most people don't know what's going on. Okay, so you're maybe dealing with who knows what. and you're trying to decide, should I stay? Should I go? You really just are looking for the signs. And so I'm going to give you 5 signs. Maybe it's time to break up right now. So one of the signs is what I call the 3 A's, what I call the 3 deadly sins of marriage, the 3 A's: abuse, addiction, adultery. And if you have any one of those 3 A's, I've been saying this for years and years and years. And I always used to say to people when they would come into my office to do consultations for divorce, and they'd say, should I leave my spouse? Should I not leave my spouse? Should I leave my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whoever it is, if they have a child or whatever? And I would say, I'm not in a position to say, leave, stay, go, whatever. But I'm going to qualify that, because if you have one of the 3 A's, abuse, addiction, adultery, these are the things that are extremely difficult to get past. They attack the foundation of a relationship, the integrity of the trust. And abuse can be physical abuse, obviously, but emotional abuse. If you're dealing with emotional abuse, narcissistic abuse is emotional abuse. It's eating away at your soul. They have to be absolutely committed to recovery, absolutely committed to you, committed to seeing that there's an issue, seeing that there's a problem. And if they're not, it's time to break up. That's number 1. And by the way, if you are looking for a divorce from a narcissist, I do have a whole video on how to ask for a divorce from a narcissist. You definitely want to check that out. Number 2, your needs are consistently not being met and no commitment otherwise. You're just very unhappy in the relationship. You're just not served in this relationship consistently. You feel like you have no air in the relationship, no oxygen. You can't breathe. Your soul feels like it's stifled in the relationship. When your soul knows it's time, that's it. Time to go. Number 2. Number 3, you're totally different. You have different morals. You have completely different directions in your life. One wants massive careers or wants to travel all the time, and the other one doesn't, or one has a totally different religion than the other. Very, very spiritual or very Christian. The other one's not, and wants threesomes all the time or something like that. One wants to do drugs all the time. The other one doesn't. Totally different people. Then that's obviously a very huge sign. Number 4, absolutely no respect for you. No respect for you, no respect for the relationship, constant broken promises. That's another huge sign that it's time to break up. If they're not respecting you, they're not respecting the relationship, they're constantly breaking promises to you, to the relationship, then why are you staying in the relationship? There's no commitment to you, no commitment to the relationship, then that's a huge sign that this is a time to break up. You deserve better. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. I deserve better. Know that you're worthy. Feel that you're worthy. You're worth it. All right. And number 5, they're lying. If they're lying all the time, they have no integrity. They're lying to you. They're lying about things. You can't trust them in this relationship, even if they're not cheating, but they're lying about all kinds of things. They're lying about how they spend money or other things. That's a big problem. If there's no trust in this relationship, no integrity in the relationship, big problem. Time to break up. Again, it goes back to respect for you, respect for the relationship. These are the 5 major signs. It is definitely time to break up. I would love.
Fed up with narcissists walking all over you? Sick of everyone believing their lies while you're paying through the nose in attorney's fees? What if you could hold all the cards for a change? Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm a top 1% trial attorney, a USA Today bestselling author, and I've spent my entire career helping people slay narcissists in negotiations. negotiations, most recently through my proven slay method. What if your suffering could become your superpower? Imagine turning all that pain into power, not just for you, but for others too. This is your chance to take back control. You can finally win. Become a high conflict negotiation certified coach. Help others while transforming your own life and do good for the world. This is your chance. Go to RebeccaZung.com/apply and I'll show you how to turn the tables for good starting today. Because a lot of the people in my community are dealing with toxic relationships and trying to get over them. Yeah. And I would love for you to sort of weigh in and help us with how to move on, how to get past that.
Absolutely.
And so what's, one of the things that you would suggest for people to do?
Yeah. So here's the thing about, relationships in general, right? We get almost attached to how other people treat us, right? We want to be loved, we want to be respected, we want to, be in a relationship with somebody, whether it's a friend or whether it's a romantic relationship, right? We want to feel good in that relationship. And so what happens for many people is that they're looking for that other person to, in some way, make them feel important, valued, loved, right? Now, here's the problem. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you're dealing with a fundamentally broken human, and you are attached to how they're treating you, right? You're demanding, you need to treat me with the love and the respect that I deserve, okay? Except the issue is that other human, because of their own inner issues that they have way before they met you, they're not capable. And what happens in toxic relationships is that this is all very unconscious, but people personalize that. So their emotions get so triggered by this person and their behavior. And then they go to try to fix or control or change the narcissist. If you would just behave in this way so that I can feel loved and I can feel valued. And that's where people can feel so emotionally damaged, because they're expecting this other person to make them feel in a way that that other person is just not capable of making them feel.
I totally agree. And that's super incredible insight. I was wondering if you could also sort of expound on the fact that, narcissists have this pattern that they have with in relationships, which is love bomb, devalue, discard. And there's, they kind of go back and forth between these various, I tell people all the time, it's not linear. It's not love bomb, stop, devalue, stop, discard, stop. They'll be love bombing, then devalue, love bomb, devalue. And can you talk about, from a psychological perspective, what's happening with somebody's brain when that's happening?
Yeah. So the narcissistic personality is really created by worthlessness, but the narcissist doesn't know that. Okay. So what happens in a person's life when they are very young, okay, something happens where they feel a fundamental sense of worthlessness. They don't even have to remember what it was, but this worthlessness gets created. And then this person will sort of try to overcompensate for that worthlessness by trying to control a lot of areas of, his or her life. Okay. So that's what's going on psychologically. Okay. Is that the narcissist is very focused externally on control and on power. And so there's pretty much no willingness or availability to take ownership for themselves about how they are thinking in a way that's creating right, the toxic parts of the relationships. In other words, they're going to blame everything and everyone but themselves for the reason why the relationship looks the way that it does. And that's just their pattern, right? And they're not capable of inwardly taking responsibility and ownership for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because, and you can tell me from the psychological perspective, but I think it's because if they somehow, it's a survival protection for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know, if they take responsibility, then somehow they're exposed as being worthless.
that's right. So, you know, what's so interesting is that if you look at our physical brains, okay, and the hardwiring of our brains, going back millions of years ago, right, our brains were developed to keep us safe, okay, right? And millions of years ago, that meant like you weren't going to be eaten for dinner, okay? But nowadays, what that means is you're hardwired to try to protect the inward thing that causes you the most pain. So if you think about the narcissist and their fundamental sense of worthlessness, their lives are wrapped around making sure that that feeling of worthlessness will never be touched by anyone or anything. So that's the survival mechanism, is let me control you so that you never have access to touch on that pain.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Yeah.
good stuff. Good
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. Yep.
So now, okay, now these people have gotten into a relationship with these people, and I personally have had to deal with them. I mean, I would say not husbands, because my my poor husband, I don't want people to think it's him,
Yeah.
but other people in
Yeah.
my life who were close enough to me to wreak havoc.
Yes.
And actually, you were kind enough to give me lots of great advice about one of them when
Yeah.
we were, you know, roommates together, who's
Yep.
now, thank God, no longer a part of my life.
Right.
But you know, it can. I tell people this, and I'm open about it because I want them to know that yes, I'm a successful attorney and I've done all these things in my life, but it can happen to anybody. And if you're an empathic person and you want to be kind and you want to be generous and you think that you can help these people, and you know, you end up doing these things, or it's a people pleaser problem or whatever it is, but you end up, you know, getting sucked into that vortex of toxicity.
That's right.
And so how do you move on? How do you get over this person? How do you get them out of your thoughts and out of your life?
Yeah. Yep. It's a great question. So the bottom line is, when you individually from within feel calm and at peace and good about yourself, you're able to recognize that you don't need this person, or any person really. You don't need anyone to make you feel good enough, loved enough, important enough. So what's really crucial is that if you are somebody that needs to break away from a toxic relationship, that you're doing your own inner work, okay? Because here's the thing, many people don't recognize that they have this automatic mind that talks to them all day long, from the moment they get up to the moment they go to bed. And they listen to this mind, okay? They identify with the thoughts in our minds. And by the way, we have 50,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day in our minds, okay? And most people don't understand that our minds just go. We don't tell our minds where to go, it just goes, right? So it's just like our bodies breathe for us, our minds just go. And when you identify with all of the thoughts in your mind is whipping you all over the place, right? Why did he treat me that way? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? That there's something wrong with him, right? All these places right, when you're in that toxic relationship, you feel badly about yourself. So the healing is really about taking your relationship with yourself, right, to actually a completely relocated mind, okay, where you're no longer listening to the automatic thoughts of your old mind that, truth be told, have been playing on a loop for forever, right? So what's interesting is that, you know, when you think about the feelings that come up within this toxic relationship, you might notice that on some level you've had these feelings before. They might not have been as intense, okay, but they've shown up in other areas of your life and they've shown up in other times. So a toxic relationship is really a mirror, right, for you to look at, where are the places where I lost myself? Where are the places where I, right, like you said, Rebecca, right, I've been a people pleaser, I've been an over functioner, I, you know, I knew somewhere in my gut that this behavior was unacceptable, but I made excuses for it, I justified it, right, I had this inner feeling that I ignored, right? So when we can tap
I could
into,
definitely say that was true for me
that's right,
from
that's
the
right.
beginning, from the beginning. Yeah.
And you know what? And I wonder if you hear this in the people that you work with, because that's what I hear. I mean, we're talking thousands of people. I knew from the beginning. I knew from the beginning. And I just, you know, I thought that he could change or she could be different or whatever it is, right? That inner knowing is inner wisdom. And when we're operating from that old automatic mind, we're not tapped into inner wisdom. We'd rather stick with, right, what we already have. We're very reluctant to let go, because in the letting go of the relationship, right, that's scary. Oh my God, we're alone, right? We don't have this person. What if I never get into a relationship again? What if I can't, you know, live my life without my partner, right? So it's fear that keeps you stuck and attached to holding on to something that you know deep down is toxic, but you'd rather hold on to it than deal with all of the feelings of fear associated with letting it go. And so the healing for people is to be able to deal with that fear, but also know, right, that when you learn how to think in a way where you can feel good, you can design a different life moving forward, where you are no longer people pleasing and you're no longer accepting things that are unacceptable and you are no longer ignoring that inner sense of wisdom and truth.
I know for me, it just, you know, like all of a sudden, because it was like little things, because I was dealing with a covert narcissist. Well, I had two different ones in my life, but
Yeah.
the one that you knew about, it was, you know, it was like this death by 1,000 cuts. There were like a whole bunch of little things that weren't right.
Yeah.
But, you know, with covert narcissists, they're so subtle and they're really, really good at being passive aggressive and just manipulative enough to get under your skin, but they live on this balance of, you know, this teetering of just enough to annoy you and traumatize you, but not enough for the world to see what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
So the rest of the world sees them as good and kind and great and so nice and wonderful people, and only you see that other side of them. And so it's that whole gaslighting thing of, you know, making you think like you're the one that's crazy because look, the rest of the world thinks I'm amazing.
Yes.
You know, and so it's really, really tough. And I know for me, one of the things, because I'm a ruminator and, you know, I was like always obsessing over what is this person doing? What are they going to do next? And, you know, and so I would say one of the things that people can do to stop, and I say this in other videos as well, is like, don't obsess. Don't stop. I had this epiphany of, if I'm like obsessing about what this other person is going to do to me next, or you know, is stabbing me behind the back, or whatever they're doing,
Yes.
I'm not creating. I'm not in positive mode. I'm not experiencing joy in my life at that moment.
Yes. Yes.
So
Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Okay, so obsessional thoughts, what that really is control. Okay, let me think about this over and over and over again so I can in some way control whether this person is going to hurt me. How is he or she behaving, right? What's going to happen, right? So that's all about trying to control your future, which is an illusion. It's impossible. Okay, now control issues put your physical brain into fight, flight, freeze, right? Remember, going back to that brain, that physical brain that's geared towards survival, okay? When we're trying to control something that we have no control over, which is somebody else's behavior, we have no control over how somebody else behaves, okay? But we're trying to find that control over something that we have no control over. So exactly what you're saying, when we're in
So say that again. Fight,
yeah,
flight,
yeah,
freeze.
fight, flight, freeze. It is the
Okay.
primitive part of our brain, okay? It is the primitive part of our brain that is only rooted in survival. That's your survival mechanism, okay? Is trying to control your future so that you don't have pain, which sets you up to always feel this overwhelming sense of fear because we can't control the future.
And we can't
So
control the other person.
you can't control the other person, and you can't control anything that isn't right here, right now. You can control your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. And so when you are in fight, flight, freeze brain, you don't have access to the higher level of thinking in other parts of your brain. And it is those parts of your brain that are associated with creativity, innovation, groundedness, right? You don't have any access to that. So you get into, when you talk about obsession, what you're talking about is this repetitive thought loop where you've got a thought that leads to a feeling, that leads to a behavior, that leads to another thought, right? And before you know it, you're in this vicious cycle of a thought that keeps looping.
Yeah. And it just is like the loop of insanity. It's basically the definition of insanity, because there's never going to be any good outcome from that. Yeah. And when you were saying something about, you were expecting this narcissist or this toxic person to, make you feel better or feel, love or whatever. The flip side of that is people who will say to me, he makes me feel like crap. He makes, or she makes me feel blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so giving them that power of saying, I'm going to allow you to dictate how I feel. And I'm giving you that permission to dictate how I feel. And you're giving this person who feels worthless about their own selves.
That's right.
To dictate how you're going to feel. And you're never going to have any satisfaction from that.
That's right.
So I want to also talk about, a lot of people who are dealing with these people, they're constantly going, why are they doing this? A reasonable person wouldn't act this way. Right. So talk about, how to stop trying to apply reason to unreasonable.
That's right. So where you lose your reasoning, right? If you are in a toxic relationship where you lose your reasoning is by buying into the thought, okay, which is really fundamentally a belief, right? A belief is a thought we think over and over and over again, okay? So the belief is you make me feel worthless, no good, right? You make me feel that way. Now, here's the thing. Okay, if you're a healthy person, the most fundamental thing that you can do as far as shifting into a different mind is recognizing that there isn't a human being alive that can make you feel worthless, unlovable, unimportant, no good. Okay, they behave how they behave. It is your thoughts about how they behave that makes you feel these emotions. And most people don't understand that, right? Most people do really believe that it is this person that makes me feel that way, or it is this circumstance that makes me feel that way.
So it's a faulty logic and cause and effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is our thoughts.
Right.
It starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts determine our emotions, determine our behavior. So when we can recognize, right, that we can control our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, we can let go and let people, they're going to behave how they behave. This narcissist is going to behave how she or he behaves. There is nothing that has nothing to do with you.
No.
And the only thing that we can do, right, when we're in a better mindset,
and even if they say it's your fault, you caused this, blah, 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 it's still not. I mean, they're going to say that, right?
They're going to say that. That's listen, so the narcissist's automatic thought is always it's your problem. That's what a narcissist does. There's no ability to take ownership, right?
Right.
And that's why they have a string of, right, like dysfunctional relationships. So the narcissist will always blame you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for me, one of the things that was really important I had to recognize, oh my God, this person is sick. These people that I'm dealing with are narcissists. That's what they are. They're not going to get better. It's really sad. It's too bad. You want things to be different because, I'm a fixer. I have always been able to fix things, make things happen, And so I thought that I could fix it, make it better, have it be at least cordial, have it be at least, but you just can't do that when you're dealing with a person who is sick. And so acknowledging your own behavior, acknowledging what you did to allow this to happen is I think really important, because then that actually allows you to take control over and realize, okay, I have control for the next time, and forgive yourself and go, okay, this happened. And I can learn from this. And now I know these things, but allowing, I allowed it to happen. I mean, I love Maya Angelou's, where she says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And I didn't do that. And so I had to take responsibility for that and then forgive myself and then move on.
Yes.
So we have like a couple minutes, and I really want to get some of your like really awesome tidbits in there. So give us your last thoughts on how people can really, move on and get over this.
Absolutely. Well, okay. So also to quote Maya Angelou, because she's so brilliant.
I know, I love.
She's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So she says that we are blind until we see, and that when we know better, we do better. Okay.
Oh, yes. That's such a good one.
Right. So here's the way it is for all human beings on the planet. All human beings, our lives, right, are a journey. Okay. And so with every step that every chapter of our lives, we're blind until we see. And so rather than looking back and saying, I should have done this and I shouldn't have done that, the way that you can see this is this relationship, as toxic as it was, okay, it's all in service of your growth. It's all in service of your journey, right? Remember I said before, it's a mirror, so that really almost you needed to be in this relationship and have this painful experience so that you can wake up. Because human beings, unfortunately, for every one of us, we only grow when we're in pain.
Yeah,
and sometimes we got to get hit in the face with a 2x4 before we wake up.
Yeah,
what toxic relationships do. They wake us up.
Yep. What is it, Rumi, that says something like, where the wound is, that's where the light enters, or something like that.
Yes.
It's so good. And that's so true. And, honestly, I wrote books on negotiation. I presented a empowerment on negotiation. And, my whole thing about negotiating with a narcissist has been born from having to deal with real narcissists in my real life.
And so, yeah, I mean, I've been able to help, now thousands and thousands of people
Right.
because of the pain that I suffered, and helping people get past that.
Exactly. That's why I developed Dethroning Your Inner Critic, because of my 30-year journey of needing to unhook from my own automatic mind and rewire a new mind, right? It's like,
Yeah.
that's what happens. We learn from our pain.
Absolutely.
And we grow. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's be real. Therapy can feel like a really big investment, but your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost $100 to $250 per session, but with BetterHelp, you can save up to 50% per session on average. You pay a flat weekly fee, which means more peace of mind for less. Therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. BetterHelp gives you that, all from the comfort from your home. And with over 30,000 therapists to choose from and 5 million people served globally, this is the world's largest online therapy platform, and you can switch therapists at any time. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/negotiate today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/negotiate. So when a narcissist is trying to get you back, it could be a number of different scenarios. I mean, it could be that they're just trying to get you back and just trying to get your attention back. It could be just get you back on track. It could be that you're actually broken up and they're trying to get you back, actually get you back. I mean, so it could be a number of different ways, or they think that you're slipping away. They're just trying to get your focus back on them. So, I mean, get you back is sort of a number of different ways, but it could be any sort of thing. But the idea is that they're afraid that they're losing you, or maybe they have lost you. The whole idea is that they're not really focusing on you. So it could be any number of things that they're thinking of, but the whole idea is they're seeing their supply source slipping away. And that's the thing that you really need to be thinking about. It's not so much that they are worried about you as they are about their supply source going out the door. And by the way, I'm Rebecca Zung. I am an attorney. I'm a narcissist negotiation expert. The reason why I focus on this stuff is because when you are in negotiations with them, it's so important to understand how they're thinking, because you got to build your strategy. You got to build all of your tactics around how they're thinking, or you're totally going to be sunk. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you're definitely going to want to do that. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I give you real tips and resources and tactics so that you can shift from being on the constant feeling of being on the defensive to being on the offensive for a change. What happens is when you are on the outs or whatever, and they're trying to get you back, they'll say whatever they need to preserve that supply source. So they just go into desperation mode. They might go into their faux apology. I call it a faux apology because it's totally fake. I have a whole video, by the way, on what does a narcissist really mean when they say they're sorry, and you can check that out. So they may say sorry, but do they really mean they're sorry? I don't think so. And if they do say sorry, it's only because they're trying to say whatever they need to get you back into being their source of supply. So they may even say, I'll do anything. I'll do whatever you want. They may even say, I love you, or we're meant to be. No one loves you like I do, or that we're supposed to be together, or we're perfect for each other. And they'll say things that they know are the things that you love to hear a lot of the times, because remember, They're very good at reading people. So remember that this is the person that was able to love bomb their way into your life in the first place. And I don't mean love bombing just in a romantic sense, because remember, this is a person who was able to work their wiles into whatever kind of relationship you've got. They know they were able to charm their way into that situation, whatever it was, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship. I mean, they've been able to charm their way into that situation. So they'll say whatever they need to say to get you back on track. So I'll change, or it'll never happen again, or whatever they'll need to say. So let's just focus on the future. Let's just move on. That's one of their favorite things to do is future fake. So they don't want to focus on the past. They hate doing that. The thing that they love to do the most is just move on to the next thing. Let's just focus on the future. It'll all be different. You'll see going forward, it'll all be different. A lot of times, what they'll do to get you back is grand gestures and, kind of love bomb you all over again too. So you'll see this whole grand gesture thing again, going back to whatever it is that they did in the first place to get you. And then they may try to also guilt you into it. How could you leave me at a time like this? You know that I'm sick, or you know that I'm going through a lot right now, or I'm dealing with so much, or how could you leave me when you're the only person I have, or something like that. And now you're a horrible person if you leave them at that moment. And so how dare you try to have your own life, or how dare you try to walk away, because you're the only one who they have. You're the only one that they rely on, or something like that. And now you have to be with them. There's like that micro manipulation thing that they'll do sometimes too, that little DM in your inbox. Oh, I got the word from the doctor. Oh, sorry, that wasn't meant for you. And then they'll take it out of your inbox. So that was meant for someone else. A little something to sort of mess with your brain to try to get you back as well, or try to get your attention. These are the kinds of things that they will do to try to get you back, to try to get your attention. And it all is designed just because they don't want to see that source of supply. The other thing that you might see them do sometimes is try to make you jealous. Well, I've got another source of supply lined up. I'm spending time with someone else, or I don't need you anyway, or I'm moving out, something like that, to maybe try to get you to be interested, or get the hairs on the back of your neck peaked or something like that. But most of the time, it's more of the future fake, the faux apology. Hey there, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney. I'm also a narcissist negotiation expert, and I've helped millions of people through this channel, and also thousands of people through my law practice, through my coaching practice, through my slay programs. And I really understand narcissists. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you definitely want to do that now. And if you haven't gotten my Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet, you can definitely grab that too at crushmydeal.com, crushmydeal.com. Grab that. It's a free ebook, totally free. I've had people win their entire negotiations just on that. So grab that. It will get you exactly where you want to go, crushmydeal.com. And you can join my free private Facebook group as well. So the one hack to beat narcissists, and let me tell you this, everyone else is telling you that negotiating with narcissists is a total waste of time, that you can't win. I know, I've heard it too. And I used to feel that way too. That person's a narcissist. They come in, they take over, and I've seen it. I've seen it in mediations. I've seen the worst of them before I knew how to deal with them, I've seen the worst of them. I mean, I'm thinking about this one guy who came into a mediation, throwing things. I'm not settling. I'm not doing anything. You're doing this. You're doing that before we even start. This is how it's going to go. And they take over. This is the way it's happening. And so everyone else is telling you, there's no way it's happening. You can't negotiate with narcissists. You can't communicate with narcissists. It's a total waste of time. So why bother? Why bother? But you know what? That's terrorist tactics. That's terrorist tactics. So what? We're all supposed to just scurry around and give in. The problem with that is that you're feeding a beast. They're never going to be happy, because then what? You think, what is it that they want? I'll just give it to them and then they'll leave me alone. Have you tried that tactic? Do you see how it goes? Do you know where it gets you? Nowhere. In fact, it's worse than nowhere. You end up in torture because they still don't give you what you want. You're not left alone. Your life is worse than ever. You're in this nightmare that never ends. And you're still living in fear. You're still being tortured constantly. And you think, why am I not out of this nightmare? Why am I not out of this nightmare? And I'm going to explain to you why the nightmare has not ended, why you can't get out of it, why it's not over, because you don't understand what's actually going on. Yes, they want to win, but that's not all they want. You have to understand the concept of narcissistic supply. Narcissistic supply is anything that feeds a narcissist ego. And they want two different forms of narcissistic supply. There's what I refer to as diamond level supply, which is how they look to the world, which is prestigious friends, great houses, lots of money. It's that external stuff. Right? But there's also what I refer to as coal level supply, which is the dark underbelly of narcissistic supply. It's that degrading, the manipulating, the controlling, the debasing others. It's that denigrating. That is also a form of narcissistic supply. And that form of narcissistic supply is a form that they also love, that manipulating other people. And they're not going to willingly give up either form of supply, either form. They want both. And the problem that most people have is they don't understand that. They're just thinking they want to win. So they think, what is it that they want? I'll just give it to them and they'll leave me alone. So there's this huge myth out there that narcissists just want to win. What is it that they want? I'll just give it to them and they'll leave me alone. That beast will be fed. I'll be out of here. Let me go. Right. And so what happens a lot of times is that people give up their leverage early on and they think, okay, I'll show the narcissist how good I'm being, how generous I am. I'll give them this, this, and this. The narcissist just takes it. Take. They think they're entitled to it anyway, so they don't think that you're being generous. They're just, great. I was entitled to it anyway. So you didn't give me anything that was wonderful. They don't acknowledge it and go, oh, thank you. That was so nice of you. Well, that was mine anyway. I should have had it. So you just gave something up. You gave up leverage that you should have kept in the first place. So now you're even more behind and you're still nowhere. They're still in your face, annoying you, manipulating you, harassing you, making your life miserable because they enjoy the process of seeing you squirm. They literally get off on that. The problem is the one hack to be narcissist is you have to understand that they're actually way more afraid of you than you are of them. So the more powerful that you become, the more that you understand that the less triggered you are, the more you shift that power dynamic, the less that they're going to have power over you. And that's the hack to beat narcissists. So step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. That's how you shift that power dynamic, by ignoring them and becoming the most powerful version of yourself. So it's my SLAY methodology: strategy, leverage, anticipate what they're going to do, be 2 steps ahead of them, and then focus on you, your case, you being on the offensive, your mindset. 99% of winning, communicating with narcissists, any of that is focusing on your side of things, and winning is you showing up as the most powerful version of yourself. And then that is when the narcissist is going to go, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? I can't make them squirm anymore. They're not afraid of me anymore. Now I'm getting afraid. Now I'm nervous. What's happening? Is when you start shutting down that supply source, all the supply sources, that is how you beat them. That is how they start to get nervous. They don't know what to do with that. It's literally like that Wizard of Oz, where you're pulling that curtain away from the feeble little man who's actually running the thing. You're figuring it out. So step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. There will always be narcissists in this world. They will always be toxic. The one that you're dealing with right now is the one that you're dealing with right now. But there's always going to be more that come along. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. There's 15% of the population. I mean, chances are there's going to be more. So the best way to handle them is for you to become the most powerful version of yourself, and for you to realize that deep inside of your soul that you were meant for more, that you were meant to step inside your power and live to what God and the universe is creating for you to be, which is the highest intentions for your soul, and live to that, because then no one can come near you. No narcissist can come near you then. No one can come near you. You're like an oak tree that just stands. And when the wind blows, you're not blowing with it, because they don't define your worth. No one has the power to define your worth. You know, you can negotiate contracts, you can negotiate terms. What's not negotiable is your self-worth, is your self-respect. Those are the terms that are not negotiable. Summer's right around the corner, and I'm already planning my next getaway. I love using points for travel, and I'm always looking for ways to earn more. Here's a life hack I wish I'd known sooner. When you pay your rent through Bilt, you earn flexible, transferable points and unlock exclusive benefits along the way. Let me explain. There's no cost to join, and when you pay your rent through Bilt, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines. and a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. When you pay your rent through Bilt, you unlock two powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent every month, no matter where you live or who your landlord is. Your rent now works for you. Second, you gain access to exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. Bilt's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, free mats or towels at your favorite fitness studios, and unique benefits or experiences that only Bilt members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Bilt points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning that your rent can literally take you places. So if you're not earning points on Bilt rent, my question is, what are you waiting for? Start paying your rent through Bilt and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbilt.com/negotiate. That's JOINBILT.com/negotiate. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. That's joinbilt/negotiate to sign up to joinbilt.com/negotiate today. So let's talk about the SLAY program and how it helped you for sure.
Yeah. So in negotiation, it's really about give and take. And the more you know about the narcissist, the more you have to work with, because you know what they value. And first and foremost, they value their public appearance and the shiny things and being liked and adored by people. But then, you know, they're also very sloppy, and they think they can lie their way through any and everything, and they're entitled to more than a normal person. And so these are, you know, this is leverage. So, you know, you strategize, right? And then you have leverage, and then you anticipate, and then focus on yourself. And so the SLAY program is really, you know, I think one of the hardest things about this engagement with a narcissist is most people never go to court. You know, the majority of people never have to go to court for anything. The majority of people never even get like a, you know, traffic ticket. So those people that ever interact with the justice system are those people that get a speeding ticket, you know? And then, you know, way below that are people that have to deal with like any kind of litigation. So it's very intimidating, and just, but it's necessary. So the necessity of that, getting an overview of how that process works, is one of the first things that's really important of the SLAY program, because people who have been really put in a box don't know their power and don't know how to access the system and how to get change. So that is really helpful first and foremost. And then, you know, L, or leverage, is, you know, what are the things that are going to balance the scales in your favor? And the anticipation is, you know, what are the things that this person has said to me over and over again? What am I likely to expect? And so I'm definitely in that phase now, you know, 3 years on, of just like, oh, every time, well, I don't say every time, but it's like, I can predict that this is what I'm going to hear, because I've heard it many, 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 many times. And it actually is kind of like, I wouldn't say it's like a game, but it's definitely a reward mechanism where you say your piece, and then when you get the response that you expected, it's like, yes, this person has not changed. This person has not matured in any way, shape, or form. But just to be able to know who you're dealing with, that anticipation is really important. To not ever expect this person to be decent or kind or empathetic or generous or any of those things. It sucks. I mean, it's a really terrible, it's terrible, but you know, you harm yourself when you expect different. And so when you can anticipate that this person is going to act a certain way, regardless of how you show up. And that's why that 50 phrases to disarm a narcissist form was so vital, because it's like, you know, I already know what they're going to say and what needs to be responded, you know, what response I need to give them. So, and then you obviously is the person you're in control of, you know. It's like, in a situation with a narcissistic partner, ex-partner. I've had a number of narcissistic bosses. I had two really narcissistic bosses in a row. I've been independent, but like the two bosses that I worked with were super narcissistic. And it's like, you show up and you build yourself up, and you're never going to change this person. I'm not the best at managing up, but it's like, just know that this person's never going to change. uh, and you can't change them. The next person's not going to change them either, but you can change you, and you can change you every day a little bit. And there's another book that I love called Atomic Habits, and it doesn't exactly relate to narcissism, but it's just like, when you think about each action as an investment in your future self, then you can break out of narcissistic patterns really, really quickly, because you're like, hey, I can control this, or I'm doing this, and this tiny little thing, drinking one more glass of water a day or doing 10 push-ups a couple times a day, transforms me into this version of myself. And the narcissist wants you to be a smaller and smaller version of yourself. But when you realize that just these little things that you can do from day to day make you the person that you most desire to be, it's a total game changer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm so glad that it was so helpful for you. I mean, it's exactly what I wanted, it's exactly what I envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was transformational for me as well, being able to kind of figure out, I mean, I had been helping people negotiate for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I didn't know anything about narcissists, even though I had been dealing with them in a negotiation setting for
Sure.
years. It wasn't until I had dealt with one as a business partner and then started reading hundreds of books on narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started applying what I was learning about narcissism to the cases that I mean, I was still practicing at the time. And I thought, it was like I had discovered penicillin,
Oh,
seriously.
totally. The
Um,
thing is, it's like, what's so insidious is that nobody believes it at first, but then, if the whole world was full of narcissists, society would completely crumble. Human civilization needs people to be honest and to be empathetic, and to care about other people. And narcissists are so good at exploiting that, because on a day-to-day basis, you just have an expectation that unless someone is like carrying a knife or doing something out and out dangerous, that you can probably expect them to be thinking about you as much as you're thinking about them. And if everybody in society was looking to stab you in the back the minute your guard was down, we would have no society, or we'd have no, there would be no, it would just be complete chaos. But the fact is that a narcissist is an opportunist who is always looking to pick your pocket, always looking to get over on you, get over on everybody, and thinks they can. And they're actually very accomplished at it because they've been doing it their whole life. And so
yeah,
that's why they hide in plain sight. But
yeah,
like you said, they're predators. It's like,
yeah,
that's how I explain it to you, is like, they have this really predatory and parasitic behavior where they just see everyone as a mark. And
correct.
so you don't really realize how you're being roped in to a narcissist's game, because you just assume that, of the thousands of people you've met in your life, you've only met or acknowledged a few narcissists. But the fact that they're so, they're like goblins, right? They're really just like,
Right. And
you
and
know,
one of the things that you just mentioned that I wanted to actually come back to, um, that I've kind of had an aha moment about
mhm,
since I've been doing this work, is that um, there's something around 85% of cases in family law settle out of
mhm,
court. And so, conversely, that means that, 10 to 15% of cases go to trial,
mhm,
right? I have had this aha moment that roughly 10 to 15% of the population is what they estimate to be narcissistic.
Mhm.
And I have come to realize that I don't think that those numbers are an accident,
Mm.
because I believe that I that there's a correlation there.
Totally. Yeah.
I believe that the cases that aren't settling are the ones that have a narcissist involved.
Sure. Sure. Because who else wants to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back?
Correct.
And yeah, I mean, so this is like a Tina Swithin thing. It's like you can't just call someone a narcissist in court because there is no place for that. But
No. So what I tell people all the time, because I do know for sure that I'm the most prominent, at least the most the lawyer that's the one that has the most visibility right now,
mhm,
out there, the one that is that you have to you can't just say the person's a narcissist, because judges don't care about that, in
mhm,
the sense that there you, you can't tie that to law.
mhm,
And what the judges care about is the law,
right.
because that's what they're tasked to do.
Mhm,
Okay, so you have to put it in terms that the judge can tie it to. And what the judges are tasked to do is make a decision based in the law.
mhm,
So you have to find a way to tie it back to the statute.
mhm,
And so what people say, oh, they don't care, they don't care, they don't care. It's not that their job to make a decision based on empathy.
mhm,
Oh, yes, honey,
mhm,
they're a narcissist. Well, that it's not a conversation that they're supposed to be having.
right,
They're
right,
supposed to make a decision based in the law.
right.
That's their job.
And someone else would have to make the same decision based on the same evidence. It's not that they're a human standing in for the law. They're not
Their
it's not
job
like you said,
is
it's not
to
a
be
conversation.
the
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Mhm,
So the law is the law, and it's
mhm,
written down.
right.
And
And
so
when you
you
read the transcripts, it says the court, it's not
court,
they're
correct,
talking about themselves in the abstract.
correct.
No.
So you can't look at the judge as
And expect them to get it. It's like you have to
as oh
show a
gee, they
pattern
don't
of this
care. You
behavior.
have to
Yeah.
put it in terms, because the judge has a job to do, and the judge needs to keep that job, and the judge is going to be um critiqued on that job, and the judge
Hmm.
could be appealed, or and if they don't make a decision based in that law.
Yeah.
And so you have to put it in terms that the judge is going to care about. And how that happens is you go, okay, California law has 10 factors or 18 factors or
Hmm.
whatever it is.
I think it's 13.
But whatever it
Yeah.
is, I don't know. I
Uh,
know Florida has 17
yeah.
factors, but so you just you go, okay, what's the first factor? Which parent is more likely to foster a close and continuing relationship with the other parent, or whatever the
Hmm.
factor says. And if that factor doesn't, if you can figure out a way to shove narcissism under that factor, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the judge to care.
And without going down a rabbit hole, the last hearing,
That's what I teach in the slave
yeah.
program, by the way.
And without going down a rabbit hole, what's fascinating about it is that the case right before ours was a high net worth couple divorce. And the attorney for the respondent told the judge, oh, well, this is too complicated for you to understand. And it was kind of this like, needle skipping over the record. The judge was like, no, this is absolutely not too complicated. And I treat all people under the law the same, because it was just like a millionaire divorce. But he was like, no, I get exactly what's going on here. I take umbrage to that statement. But then we were next in our situation, so it's like here's a judge who, you know, from one breath to the next is dealing with like division of millions of dollars of assets and multiple properties. And then it's like, you know, the custody situations, like narcissism really doesn't mean anything to the judge when the judge has to deal with like these like property divisions and custody time and things like that. So it's just like, again, it's really like, what is the evidence the judge is gonna make a decision based upon?
Right. Right. And so that's how you get the judge to care.
Yeah, that's how you get the judge to care. And it's like, it's this whole unwinding process, because going from feeling so like this person was mistreating me so terribly and starting fights at 3 o'clock in the morning and, you know, all of this, to how to present this to a judge so that a judge can make a ruling, and successfully presenting, you know, to the judge was a very, you know, again, I credit the slave program tremendously, because it's like the thing that a narcissist wants more than anything is to get you to argue with them, to get you to defend yourself, to see the world through their very skewed prism. And, you know, that can really cost you when you are in front of a judge, especially if you have written communication, because that communication can then be presented as an exhibit. And so, you know, there's other people like Bill Eddy, who wrote Biff and, you know, Splitting, and some of these other ones, who he's a psychologist and a lawyer. And, you know, it's just like Biff stands for brief, informative, friendly, and factual.
And firm.
And it just like, you know,
Yeah. And firm.
firm. Yes. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm, and or factual and firm. But just the
Friendly
idea,
and firm.
friendly and firm. Okay. So just get, you know, get to the point, say nothing more than you need to say, and becomes a muscle, you know? So it's like, there's these narcissistic muscles that you have to train. And, you know, the unfortunate thing is you get to train them every single day or almost every single day, especially if you are co-parenting, you know? And again, you know, like in my situation, it was just like, oh, why is this so hard? It's so hard every day. This sucks so much. You know, why can't this person just be decent? Like I'm so over fighting, and you know, just want to go on with my life. And it's like, no, don't go on with your life. I want you to be, you know, beholden to me or thinking about me in some way, shape, or form every day. And it's like, a healthy person doesn't think that way, you know? A healthy person wants to get on with their life and live their life fully. And it's just like, you know, so that's the hard thing to come to grips with. And nobody's going to understand it unless they've been in the situation. But if you have been in the situation, you're just like, yes, you know. And I know you have got a Facebook community that's like totally, you know, rocking, because there's so many people that want to be in
Almost
fellowship.
100,000 people now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
People who just get it, you know. And when people share their text message conversations and things like that, just like, wow, you know, been there, done that. So, you know, but then it's like this virus of narcissism out there in the world. It seems to be really infecting almost as many people as COVID. So that's the, you know, it's like, that's the next frontier, is how to inoculate society against narcissism, when social media and, you know, YouTube and politics and, you know, just there's so many outlets for narcissism to really flourish. And so, and it just causes so much damage to so many people. So, you know, and no surprise that you have 100,000 people in your community, and, you know, such a prolific YouTube channel, and, you know, the courses, and now doing these big arena talks.
All right. You know how narcissists take over your mind. They take over your soul. You feel depleted. You feel exhausted all the time. That's why they're called energy vampires. Before I even knew the term energy vampire, I used to say like a leech. They're like a parasite. They attach themselves to you like as if you're a host, that you become that narcissistic supply to them. And they take over your mind. And, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're thinking about it. You wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it. You're brushing your teeth, you're thinking about it. You're walking the dog, you're thinking about it. You're washing the dishes, you're thinking about it. And how do they do that? How do narcissists take over your mind? They do that because they start off with this love bombing, and they come off so charming and so charismatic and so personable. And they make you feel like you were the most amazing, incredible human that they ever met. And they mirror you. They use these mirroring techniques to make you feel like, wow, you met this soulmate. And so you basically feel like, oh my gosh, wow, where has this person been all my life? They read you, they read your body language, they read everything about you. They're excellent at reading people. And so they become this perfect person for you. During this idealization phase, they completely sweep you off your feet. And it's intoxicating. They totally rock your world. And I'm telling you, this is business or personal. I had a narcissistic business partner, and they flood you with everything at the beginning. And so it takes over every single one of your senses. And so here's the thing. You also were, wounded. You were an empath, and you had dealt with your own traumas. And you also felt like, oh my gosh, this person sees everything about me. They can love me, and I can save them. I can help them. And so there was this symbiotic relationship that made you believe that there was something that brought you together. All of this happens at the beginning of the relationship. And then what happens is they lock you in almost right away. They want to get you to whatever the next step is right away and lock you in, whether it's business or personal. Let's meet the family. Let's get married. Let's move in together. Let's be business partners, whatever it is. And then once you're locked in, or they get your feelings locked up and they get you attached to them, now the cold. Now it's devalue. Now it's ghosting. Now it's, I'm not texting you back right away. Now it's devaluing. And now they start using those tactics, gaslighting, word salad. I didn't say that. That didn't happen that way. What are you talking about? This circular conversation. And I have videos on all of these things: word salad, gaslighting. You definitely want to check out my videos on all of these things. If you haven't seen these things, if you're not familiar with these terms, definitely check out my videos on these things. And there are studies that have been done on these things. Robert Sapolsky has done these studies on these things. He was a Stanford University professor who had done these studies on monkeys and the dopamine effects on your brain, on the hot and cold, and the hot and cold, and how you actually become physiologically addicted to people because you're just the anticipation that they might give you that hit of love bombing. And so you become physiologically addicted to them. And that's how they start to take over your mind, because you might get that hit of love bombing again because they future fake you. Oh, you're right. I should have done this, or next time I will. And I promise you it's going to be better. And you'll see. And back to the love bombing, because they draw you back in. They draw you back in with these promises of Emerald City. It's going to be so much better. And you think that it is, just when you think you're going to go out of it again, because they know how to get you back in again. And so they condition you. They constantly are conditioning you. And so that's how you end up having them take that, where they take over your mind, they take over your spirit, they take over your soul. And so how can you take it back? You just have to get out of that toxic stew and finally break that cycle. And there's a fantastic saying that's, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Go where you're celebrated all the time, and start to just put boundaries in place and leave them in place and make them strict and say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be in this toxic cycle anymore. I'm going to stop this conditioning. I see what's happening here. So you stop, you start to pivot, you start to turn around, and you start to shift that dynamic. You start to reteach them how to treat you by putting boundaries into place and by starting to have less contact with them, briefer amounts of time, briefer amounts of contact with them, and start reinforcing the behavior that you want by saying, I'm not allowing you to disrespect me anymore. I'm not allowing you to speak to me like that. And I'll have a conversation with you when you can speak to me in a respectful manner, or things like that. Start to show it in your body language by just reinforcing that you're not going to allow that. And by reading their body language too, by the way, which I do have a whole video on that as well. But here's the thing. You have to look at the wiring in your brain and start rewiring the programming in your brain. Understand that it's your side of the fence that's going to have to get rewired. You're not changing what's going on the side of the fence of that narcissist. They will not be changed. As soon as you can understand that, things will get so much better for you, because they will not change. You are the one that's going to have to change, and your response to them. The faster that you can understand that they're not regular, reasonable people, and they're not going to act like regular, reasonable people, because they're not regular, reasonable people. And so don't expect them to act like regular, reasonable people. And the faster that you can understand that, the faster that you can help yourself and protect yourself. And so just start to work on your side of the fence, start taking care of yourself, start protecting yourself. I have a whole video on self-care. Definitely start with the self-care, start pivoting, understand that you deserve so much more. You're probably way smarter than you think. I know that you are. And the fact that you're here, the fact that you discovered these videos means that the shift is starting to take place. That is amazing. Give yourself a whole lot more credit than you probably have so far. You deserve so much more than you have so far. And understand that you are enough. You are enough. So start to see those open doors. Start to feel that power inside of you. What I want you to do right now is I want you to write in the comments, I am enough. I am enough. Just start to feel that right now. Start to feel that power right now, and start to understand that, you just have to rewire your side of the brain, start to take over, start to retake your brain back and recondition your brain away from that narcissist by putting boundaries in place and have briefer and briefer contact with them, and just start to see them for who they are, which is toddlers in adult bodies. Okay, so let's talk about Operation Triangulation. If you have dealt with a narcissist in any way, shape, or form, then you have dealt with triangulation. Another word for it is flying monkeys. And if you want to know more about the word flying monkeys and all of that, go check out my video on flying monkeys. So this is a tactic that narcissists use. So remember, they need an endless amount of supply. They are supply whores. They must have it. They must have it in any way, shape, or form that they can possibly get it. Anything that they can have to feed that ego. It's like oxygen, food. It's their lifeblood. It's like what they breathe in, they must have. And they literally will take it from everywhere they can get it. So one of the ways that they can get it, and it actually kind of works out pretty well for them, because when they triangulate, they're getting the attention from the flying monkey or that person that they're triangulating with, and it has the benefit, the added benefit, the little bonus sugar cherry on top of making you miserable. So they get both. So it's like so beautiful for them. They actually figured out a way to not only get supply out of you, but they can get it out of multiple places at once. Isn't that fantastic? So they get to have this other person adulate them and think that they're so wonderful. And you are over there going, what are you doing with this person? Who are you talking to? What are you saying? Or they come back and they say, I spoke with Mary over there, and Mary agrees with me that you're crazy, or that you don't appreciate me, or that you treat me badly, or how wrong it is that you don't believe everything that I say. And whether Mary said that or not doesn't even matter, because it serves the purpose that they want to serve, which is, making you miserable. So that's what they do. They line up their flying monkeys. It's a reference to the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz, where she had those flying monkeys like next to her, and they would just fly around and report back to the Wicked Witch and let the Wicked Witch know what was going on. Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion, they're just walking along the yellow brick road, all, innocent and happy. And there's the flying monkeys like coming along to see what's going on and reporting back, just like the little minions. And that's what happens with narcissists as well. They have their little minions that are looking to see what's going on social media. And then they would go running back, scurrying back, and they tell the narcissist what's going on. Oh my goodness, they posted this, or they went there, or I saw them say this. And let's all scurry and figure out what they're talking about. And you're over there feeling left out, feeling isolated, paranoid, wondering what's going on. Then you go ask the narcissist about it. And they love that, because it's working then. Now you're worried. Now you're upset. They know that they got you. So, you want to know what I was talking about with Mary over there? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Or Mary said this, or Mary said that. And now you're bothered, because they want you to feel bothered. They want you to feel like you're left out in the cold, like you're isolated. And a lot of the times they use their special phrases, like everybody else thinks this and no one else thinks that. If you want to know more about the narcissist's favorite phrases, check out my video on that topic. But the whole point of it is to try to make you feel bad. And if you are so sick of those flying monkeys, say banish flying monkeys in the comments below. Just say banish flying monkeys, because they really do need to be banished. I know when I was dealing with a couple of narcissists in my life, I had that situation, and, as long as you're still in the narcissist space, you're giving them opportunities to use their operation triangulation to try to get at you. And, you know, the best thing that you can do, honestly, is just not react at all. Just act like you don't really care who they're talking to. You don't really care what they're saying. Don't even ask them about it. Don't even acknowledge that they had a conversation with that person. Because as soon as you do that, you're giving them narcissistic supply. You're giving into that. And it's funny because I kind of knew that before I even knew these terms. I had never heard of the term triangulation. I had never heard of flying monkeys. And to me, narcissists were like people who were going around bragging about themselves all the time. I honestly didn't really even know what a narcissist was. I didn't know anything about covert narcissists until somebody said the word to me. And that's when I started to figure it out. And by the way, Operation Triangulation is a favorite of the coverts. They love it. Love it. So if you're dealing with a covert narcissist, you're definitely dealing with triangulation, but all narcissists like to use triangulation. It's one of their little favorite go-to bag of tricks. And so if you know that you're with somebody, whether it's in a business setting or a personal setting, and they're trying to make you jealous, or they're trying to use other people to somehow evoke a response from you, then you're probably with a narcissist, and it's probably time to, you know, head out the door and figure out a way to get out of this relationship. So if you were getting ready to negotiate with a narcissist, especially, you know, any kind of difficult person, whether it's a narcissist or not, by the way, it doesn't even matter if they've actually been labeled as a narcissist. It could just be a jackass, but if they're extremely difficult to deal with, then, you know, it's going to be the same, right?